would say, act like it's raining every day and wear your rubbers.
America thinks it knows Dolly Parton. The hair, the heels, the laugh like wind chimes. An angel in sequins who made the long road from a one-room cabin in Locust Ridge, Tennessee, to the summit of country music look easy as a Sunday hymn, but every icon casts a shadow, and Dolly's shadow holds more than folklore. It holds doors, slammed with hurt, contracts signed in tears, friendships worn down to threads, and principles guarded like family heirlooms. This isn't a hit piece, it's a love letter with the lights on. Because the secret of Dolly's sunshine is simple. She earned it the hard way. Dolly Rebecca Parton learned to harmonize with scarcity. 13 children crowded into warmth that money couldn't buy. A father she called the smartest man she ever knew, even if words on paper eluded him. A mother who braided Bible stories and ballads into the kind of faith that laughs and fights in the same breath. By 10, Dolly was on Knoxville radio. By graduation day, she was pointing her shoes toward Nashville with more songs than saving. She wrote first for other voices. Then she wrote for herself. Dumb Blonde, in 1967, wasn't a snicker. It was a warning shot. That same year, she stepped onto the Porter Wagoner show, and the country saw what East Tennessee already knew. The girl could sing a smile into a storm. But the better you are at turning feelings into gold, the more people show up with pans and claims. Dolly's made a career of forgiving what she never forgot. To understand the 5 names she swore she'd never cross paths with again or the one song she refused to lose, you have to know her code. Be kind, not naive. Own your words and your publishing. Walk away before you're swallowed. Never let bitterness touch the music. The sweetness was always real. So were the splinters. Feud has shown Porter Wagoner, the man who opened the door and tried to keep the key. When Dolly arrived on Porter's stage in the late 60 seconds, audiences were loyal to Norma Jean, the singer she replaced. They wrote letters. Some booed. Porter didn't flinch. He put his glittering arm around Dolly and doubled down. The gamble paid, duets bloomed, ratings climbed, and every week the living rooms of America watched a blonde hurricane lace lightning through Porter's carefully built world. But a partnership can curdle when it confuses gratitude with ownership. Behind the camera, Wagoner ran the map, bookings, songs, strategy. Dolly kept saying thank you until the word tasted like, wait your turn. By 1973, she could feel what she'd always be, bigger than anyone's co-star. She wrote a goodbye letter the only way she knew how as a song. I Will Always Love You wasn't romantic. It was respectful, final, and devastating. She left the show in 1974. The public smiles held. The private cost did not. 5 years later, Porter sued for millions over contracts and commissions. Dolly didn't counter on television. She settled quietly and kept moving. Decades passed. The anger cooled. She inducted him into the Country Music Hall of Fame. When he fell ill in 2007, she went. When he died, she sang. That's Dolly's trick. She doesn't rewrite history. She redeems it and remembers every lesson, what it cost her. Money, sleep, and the illusion that mentorship is the same as mercy. What it gave her. The single greatest boundary in country music history, creative ownership. Feud #2 Linda Ronstadt. Harmony in public. Friction in the booth. On paper, Dolly Parton, Linda Ronstadt, and Emmylou Harris were fate. 3 queens, 1 crown made of harmonies. Trio, 1,987, sounds like braids. 3 strands distinct, 1 rope unbreakable. The record soared. Awards followed. Somewhere between take 5 and take 15, process became the problem. Dolly records like lightning, 2 takes, a grin, next song. Linda refines like a jeweler, hours turning 1 vowel to velvet. Emmylou, saint of patience, brokered truces. The music didn't suffer, the friendship did. Scheduling fights, label politics. The second album limped through the 1,990 seconds and finally arrived as Trio 2, 1,999. Exquisite. If you can't hear the strain in the silence between tracks, accounts differ. Some say Dolly showed late or changed plans with the breezy confidence of a woman juggling 10 empires at once. Others say Linda's perfectionism ground sessions into dust. Everyone agrees on the result. No encore. The public got gold. The women kept their distance. That hurts more than a tabloid headline. It's a bruise where the song should be. What it cost her. A dream of sisterhood that would have rewritten country harmonies for a generation. What it gave her, proof that chemistry and compatibility are cousins, not twins. Feud #3 Elvis, the song she wouldn't sell. There's a story every songwriter in Nashville can recite like Creed. Elvis wanted to cover I Will Always Love You. Dolly said yes with both hands until Colonel Tom Parker reached for her purse. The price of the king's voice, he insisted, was half the publishing. For most writers, that's not a clause. It's a cliff. Dolly stood at the edge and did the hardest thing. She said no. The decision rang like blasphemy in 1974. How do you turn down Elvis? You don't unless you know who you are and what the song is worth. Years later, Whitney Houston turned Dolly's Goodbye into a cathedral and broadcast it to the world. The checks cleared. More importantly, the principle hardened to steel. It's not greed to own the house you built, and it's not disrespect to refuse the movers. Elvis never recorded the song. The two legends never collided in vinyl. Dolly never apologized. What it cost her. A line on a discography that would have sparkled forever. What it gave her, a lighthouse for every young artist faced with a smiling pen and a poisoned clause. Foid, Howard Stern, a cut-and-paste cruelty. Dolly doesn't do public disgust. In 2008, she made an exception. A radio segment took clips of her audiobook, spliced them into a counterfeit interview, and put vile words in her mouth, rude, racist, grotesque. It wasn't satire, it was character assassination with a laugh track. Dolly responded with plain hurt. She'd never been so shocked, hurt, and humiliated. The message under the lace, "This isn't clever, it's actionable," lawyers murmured in the background. The bit receded. Years later, in 2023, she walked into the same studio to promote Rockstar and handled the moment like a CEO, cordial, controlled, utterly uninterested in relitigating a wound. That's her truest steel. She won't ghost you. She'll refuse to bleed on your carpet. What it cost her. A day of dignity and a night of sleep. What it gave her. A public reminder that kindness isn't consent. Feud #5 Jeff Tweedy. A critique that missed the point. Every so often, someone decides to grade Dolly Parton in public. Jeff Tweedy, a songwriter of rare gifts himself, once offered up a barbed take, praise wrapped around the dagger that Dolly's writing could be too simple, everything essential done by Jolene. Songwriting debates belong to bars and back porches. But here's the thing Dolly fans know. Simplicity is not simple. Jolene is a 4-chord prayer that people in Seoul and Sao Paulo can sing without a dictionary. Coat of Many Colors is 3 verses and a bridge that built a world. 9 to 5 is a work chant that funded a theme park and hired a county. Dolly heard the critique reportedly and did what she always does, went back to work. The catalog answered for her. So did the millions who cried in checkout lines to I Will Always Love You, and the kids who learned to read because their mailbox held a book with her name in the return address. What it cost her? Nothing but a chuckle. What it gave her? Another reminder that audiences, not opinions, canonize song. The parts the headlines miss. Dolly has survived lawsuits, slanders, and schedule wars not by avoiding conflict but by curating it. She refuses to humiliate. She refuses to surrender her intellectual property. She refuses to let bitterness stain the verse. That takes more than charm. It takes policy, the business spine. Dolly didn't just write hits. She bought the pen factory. She held her publishing like a deed to the homestead. That's why I Will Always Love You paid for a chunk of Nashville, and why the town's young writers whisper her name like a password. Own your songs. The public mercy. She has stories she could weaponize. She doesn't. When people fall out with Dolly, they tend to fall quietly. She knows who taught her badly and who taught her well, but she lets the lessons speak, not the gossip. The work that outlives the work. Dollywood created paychecks where there used to be pilgrimages. The imagination library put books in hands that had only held screens. She gave millions to hospitals and bootstrapped arts programs because she never forgot the sound of a dollar making choices for you. And through it all, the voice stayed honeyed and honed. The persona stayed bright. The nails stayed perfect. People mistake presentation for weakness. But Dolly's whole act is a Trojan horse. The glitter gets you to the porch. The storytelling gets you to church. Some cuts don't close because they're not supposed to. The Porter lawsuit still stings if you touch it too hard. The trio fissures still ache when the radio plays those harmonies that should have had a third act. The Elvis non-recording is the most tantalizing ghost in her catalog. The Stern splice still feels dirty. The Tweety quip still circles the internet every few months, as if the catalog hasn't settled the argument. But here's the truth. The press never quite prints. Conflict didn't follow Dolly. Dolly refused to move to avoid it. She built a life big enough that trouble had to buy a ticket. That's why she's in the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and against gatekeepers' expectations, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Not because she is unblemished, but because she knows how to turn bruises into ballads and contracts into cathedrals. Picture her now. Late studio night, hair up, heels off, a notebook on her knee. Someone has tried to take what isn't theirs. Someone has talked slick on the radio. Someone has said her songs are simple. She smiles the way women smile when they recognize an old game. She writes a line that will outlive the insult by 50 years. Tomorrow, she'll donate another library's worth of books. Next week, she'll cut a duet with a kid who grew up on a Dolly record and a used guitar. In a month, she'll stand on a stage, the lights doing that halo thing they always do, and belt the truth without ever naming the sin. So tell us, which chapter changed how you hear her music now? Was it the goodbye she wouldn't sell, the partnership she had to leave, the harmony that cracked, the broadcast that cut too deep, or the critique that bounced off a diamond? Drop your take below. And if you want more quiet storm histories from behind the rhinestones, like, subscribe, and ring that bell. We've got a stack of records and 1,000 backstage stories to spin.